Hey, Jose, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. And yourself, young lady?
I'm good. What's going on? Let's talk.
You tell me. Okay, listen, I like to get into people's backstory. Now, growing up, were you in a choir or how did you first get into singing?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. I haven't had that question in so long. So when I was a kid, I really just singing around the school, and then I auditioned for the I auditioned for the Tri-Cities High School of Visual and Performing Arts with a friend because she knew I could sing and she really wanted to be in the performing arts program. I really didn't care. I was just like, okay, well, I'll go with you. And I ended up getting in and she didn't, which was crazy. But that one thing, that one turn, it changed my entire life because that's where I met my group members. Tamika and Tasha also went to the same high school. And that's where Xscape started.
Wow, I get two answers for the price of one. I'm so lucky. Okay, so who was it, in our lives? We always have that one person that believes in us, right? Who'll be like, girl, you can sing. Who was that person that helped nurture your talent?
Well, I mean, I always have to give credit to my mom, just because she was my biggest supporter, growing up. Now, I think in middle school, I had, I used to make the tapes in the middle of the mall where you could record yourself singing somebody else's song or something like that. Well, I remember I did that one time and I was playing it. And my mom, she came in the room and she was like, is that you? Or is that the real person? And I was like, it's me. She's like, oh my God, you can sing. You can really sing. And I was like, I've been trying to tell you. But after that, she was just supportive. And my brother, who passed away when I was in high school, he was a really big supporter as well. He introduced me and my girls, Xscape, when we were young. He introduced us to a man named Ian Burke, who he was like a manager in Atlanta who discovered a lot of artists. So Ian Burke really helped us get our deal with Jermaine Dupri and So Def Records. So shout out to Ian because he discovered us. He discovered Arrested Development. So many artists out of Atlanta worked with Ian first.
Oh, and now we get some hip hop history. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Part of your personality, I mean, you have great personality. You're so loving. You sound so sweet. How important is that? Because with 10 million followers out there, hinging on your like every word, how did you build that? Did you build that by being your authentic self, or did you have to fake it till you make it?
No, I definitely just built it by being my authentic self. Now, I would have to obviously credit being on the Real Housewives of Atlanta for so long. It gave me a platform for people to see me, to get to know me, get to know my family, get to know, my businesses, how I think, how I, move. And I think, I guess a lot of people connected with me and wanted to follow me from, the platform that I was on and other things that I do through music. I think, the fact that I do a lot of things, I gain a lot of support from different areas,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You just came back off tour. How is it getting out there and still getting that love like it's 1995?
Oh my God. When I tell you to still get the love from the fans of our music all these years later, like if you think about it, Xscape Just Kicking It came out in 1993. And we're in 2025 and people are still singing with us every word, We did a tour with SWV and Xscape, the Queens of R&B tour, and it was magical, to have all the different female artists on one tour. Everybody was getting along, and we were having the audiences were going crazy for every artist, but it feels good to still be able to do our music after all these years and still have the support of the fans.
Are you astounded about how much love you get from this younger generation and their love for R&B?
That's crazy, right? I think what it is that the 90s was just a great time for R&B music. It was. And I just feel like, whether it's from people sampling or, people just going back, because they say like the 90s R&B is like, you know, one of the highest streamed, playlists, on, a lot of those different streaming platforms. And I don't know, people just connect with, the harmonies, with the real lyrics, the melody, the way the songs were written during that time were just different, than what's happening now, So I think the younger generation, they're just going back and they're finding it. Well, I don't know how they are though.
Well, you must have tapped into your own Babyface Edmonds, talent, and you've written so many songs. When do you know? When do you discover that you really had a knack for writing good music?
I feel like, during my teenage years, I was always really good at doing melodies. It's so funny. Ian Burke, he would introduce us to different producers, and one of the producers that when I was just, I don't know, 15 years old, I would just go over there to their house and sing melodies all day to his tracks. He would just be like, just come up, keep singing different melodies. So I would be practicing coming up with melodies over and over and over again to the same track. So I always tell people, it doesn't matter what you play. You can just play a click track and I can write a whole song to it. I don't, I can come up with 3 different songs to the same track if I needed to. And I don't know if it's because of being around real producers back then and them testing me and pushing me. And then obviously being around Jermaine Dupri, watching him and when he would be writing the songs for Xscape and, doing what he was doing, that rubbed off on me too. So I just feel like I picked up a little bit from everybody. And during that process, I started writing songs while we were, doing Xscape, but then especially when our group started falling apart and disagreeing, I was telling Tiny, I was like, yo, like, we got to come up with something else. Like, why don't we do a project just the two of you and I? And we started working with producers, coming up with songs for that. And No Scrubs was one of the songs that we had wrote for ourselves. And then L.A. Reid heard it. He wanted it for TLC. And that's really what opened the door for me to write for other people.
Other credits: songwriting and producing Bills, Bills, Bills with Destiny Child's Pink's There You Go, Ariana Grande's Break Up With Your Girlfriend on Board, Ed Sheeran's The Shape of You, and the list goes on and on. You are now producing. What skill sets transfer, right? From being a performer, now being like a really good producer?
You know what? I personally feel that being in the music industry helped me to think differently of how to promote. So, coming from the era of when I was doing music, we used to always, grassroots promotion. So we would go in every market and we would be promoting our albums. We would be doing live performances. We'll be doing everything that we could to get awareness out about our music. So I feel like I took that same perspective as it, when it comes to producing the plays that I'm a part of. So this is my Othello is my 4th Broadway production, but we've been, even in the last few productions that I've done, we broke records with ticket sales and different things, and a lot of times it's because, in my opinion, because we promote differently than what a lot of people have done when it comes to, promoting a Broadway show. And I always tell, our team, I'm like, hey, obviously we could use my platform of getting the word out there about the shows, whether it be through my Facebook pages or my Instagram pages. But we also, like moments like this, like me talking to you and doing radio in places, not just within New York City market, but all over. I'm going everywhere to promote our show and let people know about what's happening with Othello and Denzel and Jake Gyllenhaal being the stars of our show. Like, a lot of everyday people that don't live in New York, a lot of times they were overlooked when it came to promoting for the Broadway shows because people just didn't think about it. But for us, You know, a lot of our ticket sales are from people who fly in to see our shows, you know?
Mm-hmm. We're in that day and age, people will fly to enjoy the experience for the weekend. You are correct.
Right.
One last little word for the young little black girls out there that are dreaming to become big. What advice you got for them?
Ooh, I would say never allow anybody to tell you what you can't do. I've had so many people throughout my life and throughout my career who laughed when I told them about dreams that I've had. I remember when I first started writing and I played a song for somebody and I was like, yeah, hopefully they'll let us be the executive producer of our project. And that person laughed in our face. It was like, who's going to let you executive produce something? Not only have I, produced music for artists, or been executive producer of projects with music, but, I've been executive producer on TV shows and now Broadway, and so it's like never allow what anybody's opinion is to affect what you do when you're going after your dreams.
Thank you so much. We ran out of time.
See you soon.